Hello and welcome to GED Live at PALS. Today we will go over a short GED Science practice test. This practice test is from the GED.com official homepage. And let's get right into it. So we are now on GED.com, and this is how the start looks like. And yeah, let's get started with a practice test. So one thing I can mention here, this practice test is a bit older, so it has a part that we will skip, which is the short answer question, where in the past the 2014 GED test still had a short answer question for the science part, where you had to write a written response. About 10 minutes time for that task. This is now not anymore in the GED test, so we will skip the written response part. Okay, so on the computer, this is how the GED test will look like on the computer. This is how the first screen looks like as when your test begins, and you will have to read a few more pages, go through a few more things before you can start the test. Here we go right into the first question. All right. The map shows Earth's continents, the outlines of the plates that make up Earth's outer shell, and the locations of volcanoes. So let's have a quick look at the map that we have. Continents, plates, and volcanoes on Earth. We have a key or a legend here, which shows the yellow dots as active volcanoes spread over the map. Then we have the black lines, which are plate boundaries, tectonic plate boundaries, and the red line indicating the equator. Which conclusion can be reached from the information on the map? Volcanoes are scattered randomly across Earth. Volcanoes are only located along edges of continents. Volcanoes are mostly located along boundaries between plates. Volcanoes are distributed equally in the northern and southern hemisphere. So this question shouldn't be too difficult. Now we can see that most volcanoes follow the black lines. For sure, a couple of them lie outside of this, but most volcanoes follow these black lines. So these black lines, one more time, they're plate boundaries, so we can probably directly go to the correct answer here. Volcanoes are mostly located along boundaries between plates. The other answer, scattered randomly, they're definitely not. No, they are specifically around the lines, only located around edges of continents. No, that is not true. A couple of volcanoes that are in other places. And volcanoes are distributed equally in the northern and southern hemisphere. That is not correct as well. There are a lot more volcanoes, it looks like, in the northern hemisphere along the boundaries of plates. So what we can do here as well, we can, during the exam as well, we can flag questions where we're maybe not too sure. So if you want to keep some questions open during the exam, or where you answered the question but you're not sure if it's the correct answer, but maybe you think, okay, maybe I have some time left at the end of the exam. If I'm fast enough, let's flag the question, and the last screen before you end the exam shows basically all the question numbers, and it will highlight the questions which you have flagged. So which is really helpful. You can click on these then and directly jump back. So it's like a nice little tool to memorize, to help you memorize, to go back to the questions which you have flagged and which you want to have a look at again. So we can flag questions for review. Next question, the diagram below shows a typical energy pyramid. We see at the bottom of the pyramid producers, then the primary consumers, secondary and tertiary consumers. In terms of energy, producers have the most energy, and then the available energy gets less and less until we are at the smallest energy level in the tertiary consumers. Which statement correctly describes the flow of energy through this pyramid? All of the energy from the lower levels is available at the top level. We can exclude that. No, just said the size of the part of the pyramid is equivalent or relates to the amount of energy available. So producers have a lot larger fraction of the energy available compared to the tertiary consumers. The producer level directly provides energy for all of the other levels. Not directly, but indirectly. So directly it provides only energy to the primary consumers. Secondary consumers feed on primary consumers, so we can exclude the second answer. The highest amount of energy is transferred between levels that contain consumers. That is probably not correct as well. You can't really tell from here. Energy is directly transferred from the primary consumer level to the secondary consumer level. That is correct. Energy goes from the primary to the secondary consumer level. Secondary consumers feed on primary consumers, so that's where they get their energy from. So the correct answer here is D. Okay, let's go to the next question. A scientist collects data on the solubility of different salts at different temperatures. The results are shown in the graph. We see this graph here. On the y-axis, we have increasing solubility. So the further up we go, the higher the solubility. And we have different types of salts, as we can see in the key and the legend here. We have 5 different salts, which are represented by the different colors, color lines. And then we have temperature, and we can read from the graph how the salt solubility varies with temperature of the different salts. So let's quickly define the term solubility. What does it mean? Solubility tells us basically the maximum amount of salt that can dissolve in our specific solvent, that is different at different temperatures. So solubility depends on temperature. At a certain temperature, you can dissolve a certain amount of salt in water, for example, which is the most common solvent that we would use to dissolve salt in. So, which conclusion is supported by the data in the graph? Solubility always increases as temperature increases, which is probably not correct, as we see with the purple line. This shows us that when we increase the temperature of our solvent, the solubility goes down. At 40 degrees Celsius, KCl, potassium chloride, has the highest solubility of the salts in the table. We can check that at 40 degrees Celsius. Which one has the highest solubility, the red line, and that is lead nitrate, PbNO3(2). So it's not KCl. KCl is the green line, definitely not at 40 degrees Celsius, highest solubility. The rate of change in solubility of potassium nitrate changes as the temperature increases. Okay, that is a tricky sentence that we have to understand here. What does that mean? The rate, so that means how fast does the solubility change? So the rate of change in solubility, how quickly does the solubility change when we increase the temperature? The rate changes for potassium nitrate. So what is potassium nitrate? The blue line, and we can see we have a curved line, and a curved line indicates a change in rate. So, okay, how to explain that best? We can see that for the first 10 degrees Celsius, from 0 to 10, the solubility goes up from, okay, if we just number these 1, 2, 3, and so on, it is a little bit above 2, maybe 2.3, and goes 1.3 and goes to the second line here, which is, let's say, 2. So it increases by 0.7 blocks. Now, if we increase this temperature by the same amount from 10 to 20. In both cases, we have an increase of 10 degrees Celsius. From 0 to 10, the solubility changes by 0.7 in terms of our blocks here. From 10 to 20, what happens? We go from 2 up to 3.5 almost, somewhere here. So the next 10 degrees Celsius increment, we have a change of 1.5 or 1.4 compared to 0.7. And that is a change in the rate of solubility. So in general, when we have line graphs like this and two variables, the rate is the slope of the rate of change is equal to the slope of the line. And for any graph that has a linear slope, the rate is not changing. For the green line, for example, the increment always changes by, this is quite easy, if we pick the green line, if we go to 10 degrees Celsius and we increase by 20 degrees Celsius, we go to 30, we can see that it almost increases by one full step. And the same if we go from 30 to 50, it increases more or less by almost one full step. So this increment, this increase is always the same if we have a linear slope, which means the rate is constant here. If we have a curved line, the rate of change is changing, and that is the case for potassium nitrate. So the correct answer here is C, the solubility of. Did we actually answer the last question? Yes, okay. So I hope you understood that. If something is still unclear, you can leave a comment under the video and we'll try to explain to you. Yeah, this would be the short answer question here. Again, this is not in the test anymore. In the GED test as well, some questions may have quite long prompts, so you have 2 pages here available, sometimes maybe even a 3rd page with a graph or a table on it or something like this. So make sure you look at all the information that you have available to answer the question. So we skip this question here. But we still have a question that is related to the same text. Okay, let's read the text together. Tropical rainforests contain diverse communities of organisms which may, with many interesting relationships. One such relationship connects parasitic fungi and their insect hosts. The type of parasitic fungi called Cordyceps unilateralis disperses spores onto the forest floor but cannot successfully grow on the ground. The fungus requires specific conditions and must grow inside of a specific ant species called the host to reproduce. The ants, various species of carpenter ant, make nests in the trees. The fungus feeds on and grows inside the insect host, and within a few days the fungus affects the insect's brain. The insect exhibits unusual behaviors such as wandering away from the colony to where light and humidity favors fungal growth. Just before dying, the insect bites into and firmly attaches itself to a plant. Then the fungus slowly grows outwards from the dead insect's head, producing a pod of spores that eventually bursts open. The spores fall to the ground, restarting the life cycle of the fungus. Though this relationship may sound gruesome, researchers note that these parasitic fungi may help maintain biodiversity in the tropical rainforest. Some parasitic fungi may be host-specific, meaning that a fungus species only infects a particular type of insect. Scientists have observed that if an insect population begins to grow, more fungal infections occur, and then the insect population levels off again. This relationship may prevent overpopulation of the habitat by any one insect species. Okay, to summarize, we have this specific fungus, which is a Cordyceps fungus. Cordyceps fungi are parasitic fungi that grow inside their host, in this case an ant species, a carpenter ant species. When an ant is infected, it will wander off its colony, and to a place that favors the growth of the fungus, before it dies, it will firmly bite into a plant, usually a little bit above ground, and the fungus, the fruit body, will grow out of the dead insect, and when the spores are ripe, the spores will fall to the ground again, where more ants can be infected. These fungi, scientists think that these fungi are very important for ecosystems because they help maintain biodiversity, because they basically prevent overpopulation of insect species. Whenever an insect species becomes too large in numbers, then the fungus will increase in number as well, leveling off the population and decreasing the number of numbers of the specific insect population, making space for other insect populations and species. Okay, let's read the question. Some researchers are studying parasitic fungi for use as insecticides due to their natural ability to penetrate and destroy insect tissues. Other researchers argue that there are few potential uses for the fungi as insecticides with multiple targets. Which fact from the passage supports the argument that parasitic fungi offer at best severely limited potential as insecticides that target many kinds of insects? Okay, so can they be used as insecticides? That's what they ask here. Probably yes. What's the problem? Which fact from the passage supports the argument that these fungi only have limited potential to target many different kinds of species? The fungi reproduce inside an insect's body. The fungi entirely control the insect's behavior. Some of the fungi may be host-specific parasites. Some of the fungi produce pods that grow from the insect's head. So there's only one answer here that really relates to the question, which is C. The others we can really exclude here. Fungi are host-specific. This means that they only affect one specific type of insect. If you want to make an insecticide from such a fungus, it is probably not going to affect many different types of insects because they are host specific. Okay, next question. Newton's second law of motion states that the acceleration of an object is dependent on the object's mass and the amount of force applied to the object. The table shows data from an investigation of Newton's second law. Net force, mass, and acceleration 824, 842, 1628, 1644. Which statement describes the pattern established in the data included in the chart, the table? A. Doubling the net force increases acceleration 4 times when the object's mass is constant. So we can actually check that. Where is the mass constant? We can have a look at the second and the fourth row. Mass is constant, 4 kilogram, and the net force doubles. What happens to the acceleration in this case? The acceleration goes from 2 to 4, so the acceleration doubles. So we can exclude answer A. It says the acceleration would be 4 times higher. B. Doubling the net force decreases acceleration 2 times when the object's mass is constant. Well, we can exclude that as well. We just showed that the acceleration doubles. A doubling of the mass decreases the acceleration of the object by half when the net force is constant. Okay, let's check that. We keep the net force constant at 8, for example. We double the mass from 2 to 4. What happens to the acceleration? It decreases from 4 to 2, so it is halved. That sounds correct. Doubling the mass from 2 to 4 will decrease the acceleration by half from 4 to 2 when the net force is kept constant. Yes, answer C is correct. The diagram shows an event that occurs during meiosis. We see the parental and maternal, paternal and maternal, yes, chromosome, they overlap, and we can see they exchange a piece, which is called crossing over, and we have 2 unique chromosomes now that have exchanged a piece. What is the result of this event? Chromosomes that are genetically identical to the paternal chromosome, chromosomes that are genetically identical to the maternal chromosome. In both cases, that's definitely not the case. We can see the paternal is only red, maternal is only gray. The 2 new chromosomes that we get here have the exchanged pieces, so A and B can be excluded. C chromosomes that are a genetic combination of the parent chromosomes, or D chromosomes that contain a different amount of genetic information than the parents. We can see that the pieces are the same size that are exchanged, so the size of the chromosomes is still the same, so we can exclude D. Chromosomes that are a genetic combination of the parents' chromosomes, yes, well, these are the parental chromosomes here, father, mother. They have exchanged a piece, so these chromosomes are a combination of the parents' chromosomes. So answer C should be the correct answer here. And one more time, we have a longer text. And do we have again 2 questions on that? Yes, we do. So let's answer the first question and read the text first. Dissolved carbon dioxide gas creates carbonic acid in ocean water. Rising ocean acidity levels may harm marine life. For example, high acid levels may cause hearing loss. Scientists conducted an investigation to study the effect of increased acidity on fish hearing. A group of fertilized fish eggs from the same parents were divided into 4 different aquariums, each with different pressure of carbon dioxide. One tank contained normal atmospheric conditions of 390 microatmospheres of carbon dioxide. The other tanks contained 600, 700, and 900 microatmospheres of carbon dioxide, respectively. The same number of eggs was placed into each aquarium. The eggs hatched and the fish lived in these aquariums until testing. To prepare for the experiment, one fish was placed into an aquarium containing the same carbon dioxide pressure in which it was raised. The fish's position was recorded for every 5 seconds for 2 minutes. Then sound from a predatory fish were played from an underwater speaker at one end of the aquarium at a volume that was only audible to the fish when swimming near the speaker. The fish's position was again recorded every 5 seconds for 2 minutes. Trials were repeated with fish from each tank. The study showed that fish raised in elevated CO2 levels did not avoid the sounds of the predator fish. They spent approximately the same proportion of time at the speaker end of the aquarium before and after the sounds of the predator fish were played. However, the fish from the aquarium with the normal atmospheric carbon dioxide pressure avoided the speaker end of the aquarium after the predator sound was played. Okay, question. Scientists infer from the investigation that fish raised in water with higher levels of acidity have difficulty hearing predatory sounds. Which excerpt from the text supports this inference? Rising ocean acidity levels may harm marine life. For example, high acidic levels may cause hearing loss. The sound from the predatory fish were played from an underwater speaker at one end of the aquarium at a volume that was only audible to the fish when swimming near the speaker. The other tanks contain 600, 700, 900 microatmospheres of carbon dioxide respectively. The study showed that fish raised in elevated CO2 levels did not avoid the sounds of the predatory fish. Again, what is the question? Scientists infer from the investigation that fish raised in water with higher levels of acidity have difficulty hearing predatory sounds. The best answer here is definitely D. The study showed that fish raised in elevated CO2 levels did not avoid the sounds of predatory fish. Identify the independent and dependent variable in the investigation. Drag and drop the correct variable into each box. Again, dependent and independent variable. The independent variable is the variable that we manipulate, that we change, because we want to see the effect of this variable. That's what we're interested in. The dependent variable is the variable that we measure to measure the effect that we are interested in. So have a quick think, which one is which? And you can pause the video if you want to. The answer comes now. The independent variable is what we change, and what we are changing on purpose here is the carbon dioxide concentration in the aquariums. We have 390, the normal, and then three others, 600, 700, and 900. So that's our independent variable, CO2 pressure. Dependent variable is what we are measuring. Number of eggs is a constant variable. We are putting the same number of eggs in each aquarium. The temperature of the water is probably kept the same as well. Not sure if they stated it here, but it is a controlled variable as well. And what was changed or measured was the position of the fish. The position of the fish was recorded every 5 seconds for 2 minutes. And the last question. Researchers collected data to determine volumetric bone density of 4 samples. The data are recorded in the table below. Bone density data. Samples 1, 2, 3, 4, mass of the sample, volume of the sample. And we get the formula to calculate density. Density is equal to mass divided by volume. What is the average bone density for the data samples provided? Can we actually use the calculator here? Okay, the calculator does not work in this exam, in this practice exam, but in the real GED exam you have a button to open the calculator, so you can use it. Okay, that is a bit tricky. So what we have to do here is we have to calculate the bone density of every single sample. How do we do that? Mass divided by volume. So 6.8 divided by 22.6, 1.7 divided by 5, 3.6 divided by 11, and 5.2 divided by 17.4. So how much is that round about? That is round about 1 over 3. This as well, round about 1 over 3. Here 2, 4 and 12. 4 over 12 is equal to 1 over 3 simplified. And here as well. So yeah, it's we can definitely exclude A, exclude D. Just by guess it's either B or C. I don't have a calculator now, so let's just have a guess here. That 0.36, but it could as well be 0.31. We'll see at the end. You will now have the opportunity to review the questions and your answers. This is we actually didn't answer question number 4, so this was the flag for review. Yeah, exactly. No? So this question we left open, as we said. So the rest is all answered. And let's end the review and finish the exam. And we actually we're not told which questions we got right and which ones we got wrong. All right. But since we did it together, you can be confident that the answers are correct. Okay, that was GED Live at PALS. A quick official GED science practice test from the GED.com homepage. I hope I could help you in your preparation for your GED tests. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, because this really allows us to reach more people that are in need, like you, to prepare for their GED tests. Until then, I wish you a good day, and I see you next time.